Arizona native Mike Mowery grew up as the son of a cutting horse trainer, but his start was a little bit on the rough side.
I was 6 years old. First time I ever remember anything about a horse, my dad had bought me a little paint mare to cut on. So I'd come home from school, saddle this little paint mare, and I'd fall off her every day. I mean, she could just jerk me off, that simple, jerk me down. So I got to where when I come home from school, I'd hide. So that's my first memory, I should say, of a cutting horse. So he sold my horse, sold my saddle, and I didn't ride for a couple of years.
A few years later, Mike was back in the saddle, and his dad made sure he was well mounted and taught him the art of showing a cutting horse.
It had nothing to do about training one, but just showing one. And because that was something I had to learn later in life of, wow, I wonder how the old man got him to do this. You know, because I was having trouble getting them horses to do what he could make one do.
After competing in the National High School Finals, Mike decided cutting wasn't for him. He left home and started roping until one day he got a call from his dad wanting him to finish out his year hauling for the world.
No, I said, really? I said, I'm entering a bunch of 4th of July rodeos. I don't want to go cut. So he'd gotten another man to shore, and they clicked along there, and they didn't get along too good. And I have a real dry 4th of July. So he calls me again, and I said, okay, one condition. You fly home, I'll fly out there and take that mare in the rig, and I'll go to cutting. But I said, we're not going together. I said, I ain't taking that heat.
Mike finished out the year and started searching for his next move.
I get to Vegas, World Finals are over, I'm broke. So I don't go back to Arizona. I went to Gilroy, California, went to work for room and board for a guy.
After winning a cutting on the man's horse, Mike went down and bought a brand new truck because he was now in the money.
Well, first month rolls around, I don't have payment. I go back down there and I go in and meet with Harry Marks, who owns the dealership. He had bought a stud named Leo Bingo. And he had a gelding being campaigned named David Bingo. Jim Lee had trained his horse. And this gentleman showing him hadn't been getting along too good. And Harry says to me, he says, I got a deal for you. He says, if you'll haul that gelding, he says, I got the trailer. He says, you got to use your truck. He says, I'll pay you $500 a month and all your expenses and half your winnings. And all I can think is, no more room and board. I mean, I drove out there and packed right then, and that's how I got started. And I hauled that horse all year, win 3rd in the Pacific Coast on him behind Doc Starlight and Fizzlebar. I couldn't beat them. But I made everybody else stay honest.
Mike didn't know it at the time, but the success on that one horse opened doors.
Leon calls me. I catch ride for Leon at the fraternity. And I went to work for Shorty New Year's Day. And then that opened my eyes a little bit.
While working for Shorty Freeman in Arizona, Mike had the opportunity to be around some of the truly great California horsemen. Greg Ward, Les Vogt, Tony Amaral, Harry Rose, and Don Dodge were all big influences, but his focus stayed on cutting.
And then I made the finals in 78. That was the highlight of my career. I mean, man, to come up here and make the top 15 at that time, I mean, it's just like, whew. That's the buckle I have on. I mean, that's the one that just means the most. Is I got my foot in the door. That, you know.
Mike built a thriving business in Arizona and became president of the Arizona Cutting Horse Association. But in 1982, Mike decided he was going to fulfill a lifelong dream and do it with Handlebar Doc.
And I gave up all that at home, all in Arizona, to take that one darn horse. I didn't go about it in a real business sense. It's like, hey, I'm hauling for the world. So when that was over, I stayed in Texas. I bought a place in Stephenville and hung my shingle there and starved to death for a year and a half. I mean, I've been on the road for a year and a half. I didn't have any business. Helen Gross saved me, filled my barn not with the top end of her stock, but she darn sure filled my barn, so I had a way to pay the bills.
Mike eventually went to work for Wichita Ranch and married his wife Michelle in 1986.
I don't know that I would have accomplished many of my goals without her. And boy, I mean, the first time I met her, I knew that she was special, or in my eyes. And I mean, she's been my rock now for 36 years. We're celebrating our 33rd wedding anniversary today.
Mike's business thrived, and in 1997, he won the NCHA Open Fraternity, writing Some Kind of Memories. Mike served on the executive committee, was president of the North Texas Cutting Horse Association, and then elected president of the NCHA. And as president, Mike had a focus: to make the judging fair for all.
There was the day when I was in my mid-20s. If I come down here and had a good run, they still wouldn't see me the last night. The pencil would flat beat you in this pen. I mean, we still had the good old boy system. And you know, call it what it is, but unfortunately that's what it was. And that's all I was wanting to see change, was where, hey, a young guy could come up there, and if he has a good run, he gets paid for that run.
Mike knew changes needed to be made and didn't mind ruffling a few feathers in order to help NCHA evolve. In his mind, that meant a change in the judging system.
I had a discussion with Russell McCord it probably wasn't 2 weeks before I had made my decision that I would go ahead and run for office. And he sparked some interest in me. Because it's like, well, what? Because I knew Russell, but I really didn't know him. And after talking to him, I thought, you know, this guy's got he's pretty darn sharp, and he's got some good ideas. But I felt like he was being held down a little bit, and we needed to hear his ideas. He needed that freedom to implement what I felt like he's implemented.
Mike has always had a love for NCHA and has devoted countless hours to help it grow. But the one thing he attributes most of his success to is the people around him.
You know, we made the change in the judges department, and we got the state money for the first year. And I always attribute that as I was just able to put myself around good people. You know what I mean? It's why sometimes I don't feel like I want to take the credit. It's like when you get enough good people together, good things happen for the right reasons. And I felt that as president.
Mike and Michelle have 2 wonderful kids, Megan, who's been a top competitor, and Taylor, who also shares their love of horses. Mike has been a top competitor and fraternity champion, made tough decisions as president of the association, and has been an outstanding ambassador for the sport. For these contributions, he's now a member of the Hall of Fame.
I'll be honest, I'm very honored. I mean, because everything I've ever done in this organization, what little bit I could do that tried to improve anything that could be helped, I never expected anything in return for it. I mean, like I said, I love this sport. There's no way a man can make a living at it as many years as I have and say he does not love this sport. I would have done something 30 years ago, different. But I'm to be put in there with the people that are in there is it's an honor, a big honor to me. I mean, it's a little bit, like I said, it's a little bit overwhelming because I always question, man, am I worthy of standing in that line?